The first thing I did after being reincarnated as a baby Megalodon was to turn myself over to the country. To be fed by 1.4 billion people, all because the nation of cherry blossoms discharged its nuclear wastewater. In 2 months, all marine life will mutate, and at that time, the entire blue star will become a hunting ground for mutated beasts. Humanity's nuclear weapons will be as useless as toy firecrackers against these mutated beasts. In less than a month, 99% of the human population will be wiped out. In my past life, I ultimately died protecting China, killed in the jaws of a mutated beast. When I woke up again, I had been reincarnated as a baby Megalodon. I also awakened the devour and evolve system. As long as I keep devouring, I can evolve infinitely. At this moment, I've discovered something with my keen senses. Not far away, there's a group of sea turtles. Ding! Devouring can grant 1 evolution point, with a chance to obtain the species' special skill. Among the turtles, there was an injured one. The strong scent of blood attracted several sharks. Then, a great white shark, nearly 4 meters long, suddenly appeared. Ding! Warning! Predator detected. Species: great white shark. Devouring it grants 3 evolution points and a 5% chance to obtain the species' skill, short-range acceleration. My pupils contracted. I would never forget this great white shark, even in death. On the 3rd day of the mutated beast tide in my past life, it was its mutated form, the steel-toothed shark. That crushed the rescue boat I was protecting with its jaws. On board were 37 unarmed civilians. They all ended up in its stomach. That was before my reincarnation. The first time I tasted the bitterness of powerlessness. The 4-meter-long great white was like a silver torpedo. It slammed into the group of turtles. The hard turtle shells, under its dagger-like teeth, were as brittle as paper. Blood instantly stained the entire area of the sea. The surrounding sharks went into a frenzy, swarming in to share the meal. I fought back the urge to feed and quietly approached the great white shark. While it was distracted, I unleashed the full power of my tail fin. My 3-meter-long body shot forward like a cannonball, viciously ramming into the great white's abdomen. The muffled sound of breaking bones exploded through the water. The great white let out a pained shudder. I launched its entire body clean out of the water, where it traced a terrifying arc in midair. Before crashing heavily back into the sea, before it could even turn to counterattack, my sharp, triangular teeth had already sunk deep into its gill slits. That is a shark's most fatal weakness. Ding! Host has successfully devoured the great white shark. Gained 3 evolution points. Ding! Congratulations, host, for triggering a skill extraction. Obtained species skill. Short-range acceleration, beginner. The thrill of surging power washed over my entire body. But I had no idea that the shocking scene of me launching the great white shark into the air. Seen by a young fisherman holding up his phone on a fishing boat anchored nearby. He recorded the entire thing. His name was Xiao Hu. In the apocalypse of my past life, he was the one who rowed a small wooden boat, navigating through the gaps in the mutated beast tide, to bring us who were desperately holding the defense line. The last batch of fresh water and food. In the end, he was torn to shreds on the sea's surface by mutated seabirds. Half an hour later, this video titled "Prehistoric Giant Shark" appears. Launches great white shark in an instant. Completely exploded across the internet, surpassing 100 million views in 1 hour. The video's viral success also caught the attention of one particular person. The world's top biologist, Jeremy Wade, an old man who had spent his entire life in pursuit of giant deep-sea creatures. The moment he saw the video, he clenched his fists. 3 days later, a top-of-the-line research vessel arrived at the waters where the video was filmed. Jeremy put on his full deep-sea shark cage gear, ignoring his assistant's attempts to stop him. He insisted on diving into these waters. He had the crew scatter a large amount of fish chunks into the sea. The smell of blood soon attracted dozens of sharks, but the mysterious giant shark he was looking for was nowhere to be seen. I was at the bottom of the sea, 100 meters deep. I could clearly sense Jeremy inside the shark cage. I slowly swished my tail fin and swam towards the shark cage. A massive shadow fell across the seafloor. The surrounding sharks instantly scattered, forgetting even their primal instinct to hunt. Through the reinforced glass of the shark cage, Jeremy saw me slowly approaching. His pupils contracted instantly. He had seen countless deep-sea behemoths, but never before had he seen such clear intelligence and calmness in the eyes of a shark. There wasn't a hint of bloodthirsty savagery, only a tranquility that bordered on compassion. I stopped in front of the shark cage. I didn't ram it, nor did I try to bite it. Just gently touched the glass with my snout. Jeremy froze for a few seconds. Then, trembling, he reached out his hand, pressing it against the glass where my snout was. He could clearly see the dagger-like teeth in my mouth. If I wanted, this glass in his body would be torn to shreds in an instant. Facing him, I slowly swished my tail fin, using my body to create rhythmic vibrations in the water. It was Morse code: nuclear, wastewater, mutation, danger. The color drained from Jeremy's face instantly. He had studied marine life his entire life. He knew better than anyone the irreversible damage that nuclear wastewater inflicts on marine DNA. He instantly understood the message I was delivering. The blood in his veins ran cold. I turned, flicked my tail fin, and swam off toward the deep sea. Disappearing into the inky black water, Jeremy yanked at the communication line like a madman, screaming to his assistant on the ship, "Quick, get me to the surface, now. I have to tell the world about this discovery. This shark isn't a monster. It's warning us, a devastating disaster is coming." Jeremy's video and his research statement swept across the globe within 24 hours. In the video, my enormous body gliding through the sea, and the moment I touched the glass with him, caused the entire internet to explode. My legs went weak just watching through the screen. I bet those teeth could chew through an aircraft carrier. This streamer is incredible. They're blowing up. The professor says it's sending a warning. Is this some kind of son of the ocean? Where are all the people who said nuclear wastewater was harmless? Come on out and face the music. Even a prehistoric mega shark has more of a conscience than you people. Overnight, countless influencers, explorers, and curiosity seekers swarmed to the area. These waters became the world's hottest new destination, but they had no idea the very waters they were flocking to had already become a breeding ground for mutations from nuclear radiation. I was 1,000 meters deep at the bottom of the sea, chasing a peculiar deep-sea fish, when my system's alarms suddenly went off. Ding! Mutated organism detected. Deformed octopus. Body length, 8 meters. Level, 5. Early-stage nuclear radiation mutant. Devour to obtain 5 evolution points. 10% chance to acquire the species skill, Master of Disguise. In the thick darkness, several massive tentacles ripped through the water like steel whips. Rushing straight for my face, this octopus's tentacles were covered in deformed suckers. The severed ends were regenerating at a speed visible to the naked eye. The nuclear radiation had completely scrambled its genes. I flicked my tail fin hard, triggering a short burst of acceleration. I instantly dodged the tentacle's deadly grip. The cold tip of the tentacle scraped past my skin. The current it created stung my skin. In my previous life, mutants of this deformed octopus were one of the trickiest monsters on the coastal defense line. Their tentacles could pierce through steel plates. Their regenerative abilities were absurdly strong. Countless soldiers died in their crushing grip. More tentacles surged from the darkness, completely surrounding me. Instead of retreating, I charged forward, ferociously tearing at the base of its tentacles. The tentacles I bit off fell to the seabed, still writhing frantically. In an instant, new tentacle tips grew back. Just as I was grappling with the deformed octopus, human screams came from the surface of the water. An influencer's speedboat was stopped not far away. The streamer was holding up his phone, shouting at the ocean as he threw a few pieces of whale meat into the sea. The scent of blood thoroughly enraged the mutant octopus. The deformed octopus suddenly abandoned its attack on me. Several tentacles burst from the surface, tightly wrapping around a girl's ankle on the speedboat. It dragged her into the sea in an instant. The girl's screams stopped abruptly. The water was instantly stained red with blood. The people on the speedboat were terrified. The streamer frantically worked the helm, trying to escape this deadly patch of sea. But the deformed octopus had no intention of letting them go. More tentacles wrapped around the speedboat's hull. The fiberglass hull began to make a splintering sound, unable to bear the strain. As I watched this scene, memories of my past life surged up once more. It was a scene just like this, one that played out countless times in the apocalypse. Unarmed humans didn't even have a chance to struggle against the mutant beasts. I powerfully swiped my tail, my entire body shooting out of the water like a cannonball. I opened my massive jaws and clamped down on the deformed octopus's main torso. My sharp teeth instantly pierced its body. I didn't care as its tentacles whipped frantically against me. I held on tight, refusing to let go until I had completely crushed its torso. Ding! The host has successfully devoured the mutated, deformed octopus. Evolution points gained, 5. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have triggered a skill draw. Acquired species skill, Camouflage Master, beginner level. Ding! Detected that the host has devoured a nuclear radiated mutant. Passive skill awakened, Radiation immunity, beginner level. I snapped out of it at the system prompt. Saw the girl who had been dragged into the sea, sinking deeper toward the ocean floor. She had already lost consciousness. Her name was Su Wan. In my past life, she was a combat medic on the East Sea front lines during the apocalypse. When I was mortally wounded, it was her who braved the beast's attacks to give me emergency treatment. In the end, she died under the fangs of a mutant sea serpent while covering the retreat of civilians. I gave a powerful flick of my giant tail and swam beneath her. I used my broad back to steadily support her limp body and slowly surfaced. I brought her to the side of the speedboat. The people on board were stunned. They didn't react until I gently nudged the girl's body with my snout. I scrambled to pull the girl onto the boat. I watched them get her safely aboard. Then I turned, flicked my tail, and disappeared beneath the waves. Meanwhile, this entire scene was broadcast live by the streamer on the speedboat. The number of concurrent viewers in the live stream instantly broke 10 million. The hashtag, Intelligent Mega Shark Saves Human, Child of the Ocean, It shot straight to the top of global trending searches as countless people watched the video. The footage showed me tearing a mutant octopus to shreds in one bite, then gently lifting the girl onto a boat. They were completely floored, but no one knew that on the other side of the Earth, inside a top-secret biological research institute, this very video was playing on a loop on a large screen. The institute's director, Dr. Rosen, watched me on the screen, his eyes revealing a fanatical greed. That madman, in my past life, he was the one who secretly endorsed the discharge of nuclear wastewater. He even privately conducted radiation mutation experiments on marine life. For the outbreak of the beast tide, he was at least half responsible. It was only 3 meters when it escaped, and in just a few weeks, it grew to 8 meters. Dr. Rosen's finger jabbed viciously at the screen as he roared at the researchers behind him. I don't care what species it is, and I don't care why it's growing so fast. I want you to capture it. Alive, I want to slice it up for research. I must uncover the genetic secrets of this ancient creature. The researchers behind him trembled. They didn't dare to object. No one knew that Dr. Rosen had already partnered with the multinational illegal biogroup, Abyss Hunters. They had already dispatched their most elite deep-sea hunting fleet. They were heading towards my location at full speed. I was completely oblivious to this. I was heading straight down, diving 2,000 meters into the pitch-black deep sea. This is a place where sunlight never reaches, where the water pressure is enough to crush an ordinary submarine into a flat disk. But for me now, it felt as effortless as a stroll in my own backyard. Ding! Deep-sea anglerfish detected. Devouring it grants 1 evolution point, with a 3% chance to acquire the species skill, light emitter. I devoured the swarming anglerfish one by one, crunching them loudly. The light emitter skill might seem useless, but I knew from my past life that among the later mutated beasts, there were many deep-sea species that feared light. This skill would become their nemesis. Just then, the piercing sound of scraping metal came from the distance. A human deep-sea probe was wobbling its way down. The warning lights on the probe flashed frantically. It had clearly exceeded its maximum dive depth. Inside the probe, a man and a woman were staring intently at the screen. The woman was Sha Yu, one of the country's top deep-sea exploration experts. The man was her assistant. In my past life, it was Sha Yu who, controlling this deep-sea probe, during the fiercest moments of the beast tide, relayed the beast's movements to us. In the end, the probe was torn to shreds by a beast. Not even a single bone of hers was left. Let's try one more time. This is the perfect opportunity to break a world record. Sha Yu gripped the control stick tightly, ignoring her assistant's objections, insisting on continuing the descent. Professor, our lives are more important. The pressure is already at its limit. We can get the data next time. The assistant's voice was tinged with tears. The next second, a dull impact sound rang out, and the entire probe shook violently. The two of them were thrown hard against the cabin wall. Sha Yu looked out through the observation window. Her pupils contracted suddenly. 2 enormous shadows were ferociously tearing at each other in the pitch-black deep sea. One of them was me. Ding! Giant squid detected. Body length 18 meters, level 7 early stage mutant. Devouring it grants 10 evolution points. An 8% chance to obtain the species skill, deep sea stealth. This giant squid's tentacles were as thick as steel cables. Its suckers were lined with sharp barbs, lashing viciously against my body. They instantly carved several bloody gashes. It's an apex predator of the deep sea. The nuclear radiation caused its size and strength to multiply several times over. In my past life, this type of mutated giant squid could easily capsize a 10,000-ton cargo ship. Its tentacles wrapped around my torso. The feeling of suffocation hit me instantly. In my past life, I had fought this kind of monster countless times. I knew its weakness all too well. I whipped my head around and bit down on its thickest main tentacle. My sharp teeth instantly severed its nerves. The excruciating pain made it suddenly release its tentacles, instinctively trying to break free. But I gave it no chance. I instantly triggered my short-range acceleration. My entire body lunged forward, and I clamped my jaws onto its head. I didn't care that its remaining tentacles were frantically beating against my body. I held on with a death grip until its struggles grew weaker and weaker, and finally, it stopped moving altogether. Ding! The host has successfully devoured the mutated giant squid. Gained 10 evolution points. Ding! Congratulations, host, you've triggered a skill extraction. Obtained species skill. Deep sea stealth, beginner level. Ding! Host level increased to level 7. Body length increased to 12 meters. Unlocked immunity to extreme deep sea pressure. I shook the blood and grime from my body and looked up to see a deep sea probe nearby. I remember Sha Yu. I remember everything she did for humanity in my past life. I slowly swam toward the probe, without any aggression. I just gently nudged the observation window with my snout. Sha Yu was inside the cabin. Looking at the behemoth before her, her entire body was trembling. She had just witnessed with her own eyes this giant shark tear apart a giant squid capable of trapping a submarine. But now, there wasn't a hint of malice in its eyes. Only a sense of familiarity and gentleness that she couldn't comprehend. I faced the probe, and once again used my body to tap out a message in Morse code: nuclear wastewater. 2 months, beast tide, total collapse, Washa, East Sea defense line, prepare in advance. Sha Yu froze instantly. Her professor, Zhao Yingchen, the nation's top expert on marine biology and nuclear radiation, had recently been desperately trying to warn everyone that nuclear wastewater would trigger a genetic catastrophe in marine life. But no one listened, and now, this intelligent, prehistoric giant shark was delivering a message that perfectly matched her professor's research. My warning delivered, I turned and activated deep sea stealth. I vanished into the pitch-black depths of the sea. Sha Yu frantically maneuvered the probe to the surface. She had to get back immediately to tell her professor everything. Half a day later, Sha Yu reached land. She burst into her professor Zhao Yingquan's office. He was sitting in front of a monitor, repeatedly playing the video of me knocking the great white shark into the air, his brow deeply furrowed. This gray-haired man, in my past life, was the supreme commander of Washa's East Sea defense line. In the final battle, he was the one who pressed the nuclear detonation button. He annihilated himself along with the invading beast tide. He died in the same place I did. Professor, look. Sha Yu plugged the USB drive into the TV, and instantly, the screen showed footage of me battling the giant squid. There was also the clip of me lingering in front of the probe. It's this shark. It's not just intelligent, it's sending us a warning. Nuclear wastewater. In 2 months, there will be a tide of mutant beasts. Zhao Yingchen watched me on the screen, his hands suddenly clenching into tight fists. His knuckles turned white. He had studied marine ecology his entire life. After the nuclear wastewater was discharged, the data he collected on genetic mutations in marine life had long exceeded the safe threshold by 1,000-fold. He had always thought he was going crazy. Until now, when he saw the message I delivered. Just then, the phone rang urgently. Zhao Yingchen quickly answered. The news from the other end of the line made him instantly roar into the receiver. What? They dare to continue the discharge? Those heartless madmen. He didn't have time to explain to Sha Yu. He just grabbed his coat and rushed out the door. He had to report all the data, all the warnings. He knew that the time left for humanity was running out. Meanwhile, I was in the deep sea of the Western Pacific, devouring and evolving as I went. I leveled up my Master of Disguise skill to level 2, which now allows me to mimic the form of any marine creature. The transformation lasts for 60 minutes. This skill saved my life countless times in my past life. Ding. Creature detected. Pacific green sea turtle. Devour to obtain 1 evolution point. The thought, I instantly activated Master of Disguise. My enormous body twisted and contorted in the water, and in the blink of an eye, I had turned into a green sea turtle, identical to the ones around me. I silently blended into the bale. The lead turtle of the group sensed something was amiss. It swam over to me and sized me up for a moment, but eventually, it let its guard down. It then led the bale onward, towards the beach ahead. Half an hour later, the bale reached the beach. But before they could even crawl onto the sand, the roar of fishing boats echoed as several vessels charged in. The men on board, armed with nets and iron hooks, began dragging the nesting sea turtles onto their boats without a word. Their cries were horrifying. In the blink of an eye, the boats were filled to the brim. These men were low-ranking members of the Abyss Hunter Syndicate. They were capturing the sea turtles to use as subjects for their radiation mutation experiments. In my past life, I don't know how many marine creatures were destroyed in their experiments. Just then, the effect of my Master of Disguise wore off. My massive Megalodon body instantly reappeared, and I rammed it directly into the bottom of a fishing boat. The entire vessel, as if made of paper, was instantly sunk by the impact. The men on board jumped into the sea, swimming desperately for the shore. With a single flick of my tail fin, I sent a wave that launched them into the air. Whether or not they made it to the shore alive was up to their own fate. After all that, I turned and swam back toward the deep sea. But I hadn't gotten far before the system's red alert suddenly blared. Ding. Warning. High-intensity active sonar lock detected. Source: Abyss Hunter Capture Fleet. A total of 5 destroyer-class vessels are converging on the host's position. Model. Ding. Warning. Depth charge deployment detected. Evade immediately. My heart sank. These lunatics. To think they'd use military-grade capture equipment just to get me. They have absolutely no regard for the marine ecosystem. In my past life, I was trapped by their sonar weapons. Severely injured by depth charges, I was powerless to turn the tide in the final defense. Without a moment's hesitation, I instantly activated deep sea stealth. I dove rapidly towards the seabed 3,000 meters down, but the depth charges behind me were already closing in. Terrifying explosions went off one after another around me. The shockwaves slammed into me like heavy hammers. I was instantly sent spinning, my head reeling, and my descent was brutally halted. Report, Captain. Depth charges have covered the designated area. Shockwaves confirmed to have hit the target. The target's descent trajectory has been interrupted. Current position is 300 meters underwater. Deploy the sonar jammer. Block its path of descent. Dispatch the underwater assault team. I wanted alive. The voice of the fleet commander reached my senses through the sonar. Excruciating pain washed over my entire body. Shrapnel from the explosions had torn several bone-deep wounds in my skin. Blood gushed continuously into the seawater. 3 fully equipped frogmen had already jumped from the ship. They were diving rapidly towards my position, holding tranquilizer guns. The drug in those guns was specially developed for giant marine creatures. A direct hit, and even a blue whale, would lose consciousness in an instant. But what they don't know is that this deep sea isn't their home turf. It's mine. The frogman leader had just dived to 200 meters. When he suddenly let out a terrified shout into his communicator, Anada-kun is gone. Before he could finish, a mutated tentacle shot out from the darkness, instantly wrapped around the second frogman, dragging him into the endless dark. The screams in the communicator stopped abruptly. The remaining frogman leader was scared out of his wits. He swam towards the surface like a madman. That was a deformed octopus tentacle I simulated using Disguise Master. Watching him struggle desperately to the surface, I charged forward in an instant. I bit down, crushing his oxygen tank, then transformed into his likeness. I floated towards the surface. A patrolman on the ship saw me come up, and immediately rushed over to haul me aboard. I was rushed to the infirmary. I lay on the medical bed, and slowly opened my eyes, a cold smile playing on my lips. These lunatics, they almost killed me at the bottom of the sea. This is a debt I will repay 100-fold. Just then, Fleet Commander Fujiwara Kenji walked in. He's the head of the Abyss Hunter Group's Asia-Pacific division. He led countless attempts to capture me in my past life. His hands are stained with the blood of countless marine creatures and humans. Matsushita, are you feeling any better now? What on earth happened down there? I asked, feigning weakness. I don't understand why the target of our operation this time was just a shark. Fujiwara Kenji sighed, his tone laced with frustration. It was Dr. Rosen's order. This shark's genes hold the secret to an ancient creature, as well as the ability to resist nuclear radiation. If we can just catch it, we'll be able to control the future of the entire ocean. I scoffed internally. Control the future? You madmen will only drag the entire world into hell. I stood up and spoke to Fujiwara Kenji. Since you're so eager to know what happened on the seabed, then come with me. He didn't suspect a thing and followed me out of the infirmary. I led him to the side of the ship, and in the instant before he could react, I instantly transformed back into my Megalodon form, my massive head ramming violently against the ship's hull. The entire destroyer was instantly smashed open with a huge gash, and seawater poured in frantically. Fujiwara Kenji stared at me in terror, unable to even let out a scream. He was swept into the sea by the wave I created. I opened my massive jaws, and in one bite, I devoured the armed guards following him. The rifles in their hands fired at my body, but they couldn't even pierce my skin. Ding. Host has successfully devoured armed human personnel. Gained 2 evolution points. Ding. Warning. The remaining 4 destroyers have locked onto the host. Torpedoes have been launched. Please evade immediately. I watched the torpedoes rushing toward me. Short-range acceleration triggered instantly, and I charged toward the deep sea at full speed. The torpedoes exploded behind me, the shockwave sweeping over me once again. But this time, I was prepared. Using the momentum of the current, I shot directly to the underside of the fleet's ships. For the next half hour, this patch of sea became my hunting ground. I used Master of Disguise to simulate a reef, to simulate an orca. Simulating anything I could think of, launching surprise attacks again and again. One after another, the destroyers were like paper in front of me. They sank one by one. Ding. Host has successfully destroyed the Abyss Hunter Pursuit Fleet. Gained 50 evolution points. Master of Disguise skill upgraded to level 3. Can now simulate the form of any object for a duration of 24 hours. Ding. Devour skill upgraded to level 2. Evolution points gained from devouring are doubled. Ding. Host level increased to 10. Body length has grown to 20 meters. Weight, 100 tons. Basic prehistoric Megalodon genes fully unlocked. I looked at the system panel with only one thought in my mind. This is just the beginning. For what you owed me in my past life, what you owed this ocean, and what you owed all of humanity, I will take it all back, piece by piece. The news that the Abyss Hunter Pursuit Fleet had been completely wiped out reached Dr. Rawson's ears. He watched the satellite footage, seeing all 5 destroyers sunk at the bottom of the Pacific. Shaking with rage, he swept all the instruments off his desk. A bunch of useless fools. They can't even catch a single shark. The researcher beside him didn't dare to breathe, asking timidly, "Dr. Rawson, what should we do now?" Dr. Rawson took a deep breath. The fanaticism in his eyes grew even stronger. They've spooked it. This shark will definitely leave this area. Keep your eyes on the global satellite feeds for me. Don't miss a single frame, not one anomalous pixel. The moment it dares to show its face, tell me immediately. I have to catch it. But he didn't know I had already left the West Pacific. Relying on Master of Disguise and deep-sea stealth, I ate my way from the West Pacific to the Arctic Ocean. In just 3 short days, I devoured countless deep-sea predators. My body length has grown to 21 meters, and my weight has surpassed 110 tons. I became the undisputed apex predator of this ocean. One day, I was patrolling beneath the floating ice of the Arctic Ocean. The system's notification suddenly sounded. Ding, detected. A pod of 12 orcas. The leading male is 9 meters long, level 8. Devouring a single one grants 5 evolution points. The system's prompt hadn't even faded when the orca pod suddenly launched an attack on me. The leader slammed violently into my body. The immense force knocked me back several dozen meters. I recovered from the impact and instantly recognized him, Blackback. In my past life, he was the only orca leader willing to fight alongside me. In the final battle at the East Sea defensive line, he led his pod, charging into the tide of monstrous beasts to protect me. He and a mutated mosasaur over 50 meters long fought to their mutual destruction, dying right in front of me. I looked at him and didn't fight back. I could clearly sense that he had wounds on his body. There were also several young orcas in the pod. They didn't see me as prey. They saw me as a threat. They were protecting their young. Just then, the system's red alert sounded again. Ding, warning, mutated creature detected. Aberrant orca. Length 12 meters, level 10. A heavily mutated specimen from nuclear radiation is rapidly approaching the orca pod. From the dark water, an orca covered in deformed tumors charged out. Its teeth were splayed outwards, and its eyes held nothing but bloodthirsty madness. In one bite, it latched onto a young orca's tail fin. Blood instantly stained the sea red. The young orca let out a painful cry. Blackback's eyes instantly turned red with fury. He turned and charged toward the aberrant orca, but he was no match for the mutated creature. In just one clash, he was violently slammed against the floating ice by the aberrant orca. The ice floe shattered instantly. Blackback let out a pained, muffled groan. In my past life, Blackback's pod was slaughtered by this very type of aberrant orca, leaving him as the sole survivor. That was why he fought alongside me. In this life, we'll absolutely not let that tragedy happen again. I swung my tail fin fiercely. Short-range acceleration triggered instantly. My 21-meter-long body shot forward like a cannonball. At the exact moment the aberrant orca was about to crush Blackback's skull, my sharp teeth pierced through its deformed skin and wedged deep into its bones. The aberrant orca let out a frenzied roar, turned, and rammed its head violently into my abdomen. But I refused to let go, no matter how hard it rammed me. I held on with a death grip until I had completely bitten its torso in two. Ding, the host has successfully devoured the heavily mutated aberrant orca. Gained 20 evolution points. Ding, congratulations to the host for triggering a skill extraction. Acquired species skill, Sonic Shockwave, beginner level. Ding, host level has increased to 11. My body length grew to 22 meters. I shook the bloodstains from my head. I turned to look at Blackback. He was leading his pod of orcas, slowly closing in around me. They didn't attack. They just gently touched my body with their rostrums, letting out a series of soft whale calls. He was thanking me. He recognized that I had saved him, saved his pod. From that day on, Blackback and his pod of orcas followed behind me. I had my very first followers. In this ocean that was about to become a living hell, I was no longer fighting alone. 3 days later, we were patrolling the waters of the Arctic Ocean. Suddenly, I heard a child scream from the surface. I surfaced with Blackback. I saw a small wooden boat that had been overturned by a pod of orcas. Several children of the Arctic natives had fallen into the sea. An orca had bitten one of the boy's ankles and was dragging him into the deep sea. That boy's name was Achang, the son of the chief of the Arctic native tribe. In my past life, after the beast horde broke out, the Arctic became humanity's last refuge. Achang's tribe took in hundreds of thousands of fleeing civilians, only to be besieged by mutated beasts in the end. The entire tribe died in battle. Not a single one of them surrendered. I watched as the boy gradually lost consciousness in the water, and memories of my past life came flooding back. I whipped my tail violently and charged forward. With one bite, I seized the orca that was attacking him and instantly tore it to shreds. Blackback led his pod forward, completely surrounding the other attacking orcas. In the blink of an eye, they were all taken care of. I dove beneath Achang, lifted him out of the water with my back, and carried him over to the overturned wooden boat. The other children scrambled to pull Achang onto the boat, staring at my enormous body. There was no fear in their eyes, only shock and gratitude. I transformed into my human form and climbed onto the small wooden boat. The children were all startled, but when they saw me performing first aid on Achang, they all quieted down. Soon, Achang coughed up several mouthfuls of seawater and came to. Just then, a fishing boat slowly made its way over. The captain was Achang's uncle, Zhang Wei, a true blue Chinese fisherman. He fished in the Arctic Ocean year-round. When he saw the overturned boat, he rushed over like a madman and brought us aboard his vessel. When he learned that I had saved Achang, Zhang Wei was so emotional he was babbling. He insisted on inviting me to be a guest at their tribe, and I didn't refuse. I knew that this tribe in the coming apocalypse, would become one of humanity's strongest fortresses. Half a day later, we arrived at the tribe's settlement. The chief, Eresput, who was also a Chang's father, learned that I had saved his son and walked straight up to me. He gave me a deep bow. "Thank you, warrior from the south. You are a benefactor to my Pute family. Please tell me, how can I ever repay you?" I quickly helped him to his feet. I spoke up, saying, it was really no trouble at all. "Don't worry about it, just find me a place to stay for the night." After hearing this, Eresput laughed heartily, clapped my shoulder, and said, "My home is your home. Stay as long as you like." That night, Eresput held a grand welcoming feast for me. Everyone in the tribe gathered around, giving me their most precious gifts and thanking me endlessly. After a few rounds of drinks, I saw an elder of the tribe sitting by the campfire, telling stories to the children. The story said that, long ago, an ancient city called Atlantis lay slumbering beneath the ocean. Buried within it was the sea god's core, which held the power to control the oceans and could dispel all darkness and evil. Only a true guardian of the ocean with a kind heart could find this ancient city and awaken the sea god's power. My heart skipped a beat. In my past life, I had heard the legend of Atlantis countless times, but I never found any trace of it. Yet, the way the elder told it was incredibly real. He even described the location of the ancient city and the underwater passage with perfect clarity. More importantly, the sea god's core he spoke of was likely the key to fighting the beast tide 2 months from now. In my past life, we had fought with all our might, could only barely fend off the beast tide's assault, with absolutely no ability to counterattack. If the sea god's core truly existed, then this time, not only could we hold our line of defense, but we could also completely annihilate these mutated beasts, preventing the apocalypse from happening. After I returned to my room, the elder's words kept replaying in my mind. I couldn't sit still any longer. I had to go and see for myself. I had to find Atlantis. I had to find the sea god's core. Early the next morning, I bid farewell to the tribe and went to a remote part of the sea. I instantly transformed back into my Megalodon form, and with black back in the orca pod, I dove at top speed toward the sea area the elder had described. I searched the seafloor for 6 whole hours but came up with nothing. Just as I was losing heart and about to give up, Black Back suddenly let out an urgent whale call, its snout pointing toward a rock wall on the seabed. I swam over and discovered a bottomless underwater passage in the rock face. Countless ancient patterns were carved into the stone walls of the passage, exactly as the elder had described in his story. The end of this passage was very likely the legendary Atlantis. Without a moment of hesitation, I took Black Back and plunged into the passage. It was pitch black inside. The water pressure grew stronger and stronger. Even I could feel a sense of the crushing force. A full hour later, the view before my eyes suddenly opened up. A massive underwater city appeared before me. The entire city was forged completely from gold. Huge palaces, towering statues, and complete streets emitted a faint golden glow in the deep sea. Even after slumbering for millions of years, you could still see its former glory. Atlantis really existed. Along with Black Back, I slowly swam into the ancient city. Just as I was marveling at the city's magnificence, a deafening roar echoed from its deepest depths. The entire sea trembled violently. Ding! Warning! A top-tier mutated creature has been detected. Reaper Leviathan. Length: 50 meters. Level: 20. An ultimate nuclear radiation mutant. Devouring it grants 100 evolution points. There is a 20% chance of obtaining the species' skill high-strength defense. Before the voice could even fade, Behemoth charged out of the darkness. Its body was as massive as a mountain range, covered in scales as hard as steel, and its mouth was filled with teeth like spears. A pair of crimson eyes stared deadly at me, glowing with a bloodthirsty light. The Reaper Leviathan. It was one of the top predators from the Beast Tide in my past life. It was the one that led the Beast Tide and shattered the first gate of the East Sea defense line. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers died at its hands. I fought it for 3 days and 3 nights and only barely managed to drive it back. I almost died myself. It opened its massive jaws and charged at me. A foul stench washed over me. The current from its massive body pinned me in place. I instantly activated short-range acceleration, narrowly dodging its deadly bite. I turned, swam behind it, and bit off a piece of its tail fin. The excruciating pain of torn flesh made the Leviathan let out a frenzied roar. It spun around abruptly, its giant tail whipping viciously against my body. I was sent flying like a cannonball, crashing hard into the wall of the Golden Palace. The wall shattered instantly, and a spray of fresh blood erupted from my mouth. Seeing that I was injured, Black Back charged forward with his orca pod and frantically attacked the Leviathan. But their attacks didn't even leave a scratch on the Leviathan's scales. The Leviathan just swatted its tail and sent Black Back flying. The orca pod suffered heavy casualties in an instant. Just as I was about to charge in again, another deafening roar echoed out. Another, even larger Reaper Leviathan swam out from the depths of the ancient city. It was a full 60 meters long, and its level was as high as 22. The injured female leviathan nuzzled affectionately against the male leviathan's body, letting out a pitiful whimper. My heart sank. You've got to be kidding me. I take on one, and a pair shows up. They're ganging up on a single shark. The two Reaper leviathans charged at me simultaneously. Their attacks were perfectly coordinated. I had no room to dodge. In a single exchange, the male leviathan slammed me into the seabed. The immense force made the entire seafloor tremble. Piercing pain shot through my entire body. I was sure several of my bones were broken. On the brink of death, images from my past life flooded my mind like a tidal wave. The moment the East Sea defense line fell, the despairing cries of the civilians, the moment my comrades in arms hit their self-destruct buttons. Their final salute, the moment Blackback and the mutant beast took each other down. The way he looked back at me one last time, when General Zhao Yingchen and the Beast Tide were swallowed by the nuclear blast. My unbending spine, and all those I failed to protect. Those who died so horribly in the apocalypse, those who were lost in the darkness, never to see the light again. In my past life, I gave it my absolute all, but I still couldn't protect them. In this life, I've been reborn. How can I possibly fall here? An unprecedented power erupted from within my body. I looked at the two charging leviathans, and with a single thought, Master of Disguise activated instantly. My body twisted and contorted rapidly in the seawater. In the blink of an eye, I took on the exact same form as the female leviathan. The two charging leviathans froze in place. They couldn't tell which one was their real kin. I seized this opportunity and swam quickly to the female leviathan's side. Before it could even react, I opened my giant mouth and bit down hard on its gill slits. This was its most fatal weakness. I used all my strength. My teeth instantly pierced its artery. Blood immediately dyed the entire ancient city of Atlantis red. The female leviathan let out a desperate wail, its body struggling violently a few times. Before finally going still, Host has successfully devoured the female death leviathan. 100 evolution points gained. Ding. Host's level has increased to 15. Body length has grown to 26 meters. The male leviathan watched its mate die right before my eyes and fell into a complete frenzy. Let out a deafening roar, and the seawater throughout the ancient city churned with it. It charged madly toward me. Everywhere it passed, golden structures shattered. Absolutely nothing could stand in its way. I didn't fight it head on. Instead, I turned and sped towards the statue of the sea god in the center of the ancient city. That statue was a full 100 meters tall, a carving of the sea god Poseidon holding his trident. The entire statue was carved from a single piece of obsidian, making it incredibly hard. The male leviathan chased me frantically from behind, its crimson eyes filled with nothing but killing intent. I didn't even notice the statue ahead. Just as it was about to slam into me, I swerved sharply to the side, triggering a short-range speed burst. Instantly, I dodged its charge, but the male leviathan, already lost in its frenzy, couldn't stop its momentum at all. Its entire body crashed violently into the sea god statue. Boom, a deafening crash echoed. The 100-meter-tall obsidian statue collapsed with a roar. Countless massive stone fragments rained down like water. In an instant, they buried the male leviathan. It let out a few indignant hisses, struggled a few times, and then finally fell silent. Ding. Host has successfully killed the male death leviathan. 150 evolution points gained. Ding. Congratulations to the host for triggering a skill draw. Obtained species skill. High strength defense, intermediate. Reduces physical and energy damage taken by 50%. Ding. Host's level has increased to 18. Body length has grown to 30 meters. Weight, 180 tons. The ultimate gene fragment of the prehistoric Megalodon has been fully unlocked. I looked at the system panel and let out a long sigh of relief. Intense pain throbbed from the wounds all over my body, but in my heart, I felt an incomparable sense of release. The death leviathans that had killed countless of my comrades in my past life. This one, I slew it in the ancient city of Atlantis. Species, prehistoric Megalodon. Level, 18. Length, 30 meters. Weight, 180 tons. Skills, Devour, Level 2, Short-Range Acceleration. Intermediate, Camouflage Master. Level 3, Deep Sea Stealth. Intermediate, Radiation Immunity. Intermediate, Sonic Shockwave. Intermediate, High Strength Defense. Intermediate. 29 days remaining until the full-scale invasion of the mutated creatures. Looking at the last line of bright red text on the panel, my gaze instantly became resolute. In 29 days, the tide of mutated beasts will erupt completely. Time waits for no one. I must go back immediately to complete the first goal of my new life, offering myself to the country. I took Little Red and Blackback and left the ancient city of Atlantis, heading towards the East China Sea. Full speed ahead, Deep Sea Stealth was active the entire way. It only took us 3 days to cross half the globe. We arrived in the East China Sea, and at this time, China was already in a massive uproar because of my previous actions. General Zhao Yingchen had taken the warning I sent, along with all the data on nuclear radiation mutations, and reported it all to the country. The nation gave it the highest priority. The highest level emergency response was immediately activated. The coastal defense lines were fully upgraded. The National Disaster Prevention Plan was fully implemented. The entire country was preparing for the disaster 2 months away. General Zhao Yingchen personally oversaw the East China Sea Scientific Research Base, leading the country's top team to monitor all activity in the East China Sea 24 hours a day. They had been looking for me. They knew that I was the only being who could foresee the disaster and had the ability to fight the mutated beasts. With little red and blackback, I appeared before the East China Sea research vessel. A massive shadow fell upon the sea's surface. Everyone on the research vessel tensed up instantly. General Zhao Yingchen walked to the bow, watching as I slowly approached. His eyes were filled with shock. All the researchers and all the soldiers on the ship faced me and gave a unified military salute. That same day, the nation's highest directive was issued. Initiate Project Poseidon. Mobilize the entire nation's strength to provide me with all necessary resources. A nationwide feeding by 1.4 billion people. Overnight, all the nation's fishery resources, deep-sea aquaculture bases, and high-protein bait processing plants went into full operation. Countless fishing boats and research vessels headed for the East China Sea, carrying the highest quality bait for designated feedings. Netizens across the country were online every day, waiting for my latest updates and cheering me on. The hashtag, National Policy, nationwide feeding of the sea god Megalodon, exploded in popularity, dominating the top of the trending charts for a whole week. Shark god, eat more. You have to grow big and strong so you can crush those mutated beasts in 2 months. My family owns a fish farm. All our fish are reserved for the shark god. He'll make sure you have enough. You died fighting for us in your past life. In this life, all 1.4 billion of us in China will raise you. Every day, tens of thousands of tons of high-quality bait were fed into my mouth. My evolution speed skyrocketed. Host has successfully devoured top-tier, high-protein bait. Gained 10 evolution points. Host's level has increased to 19. Length has increased to 32 meters. Ding. Host has successfully devoured a swarm of deep-sea krill. Gained 20 evolution points. Ding. Devour skill upgraded to level 3. Devour evolution points are now tripled. Ding. Host level increased to level 20. Body length has grown to 35 meters. Unlocked ultimate skill. Poseidon's Roar. This skill releases the prehistoric Megalodon's ultimate sonic wave. It can intimidate all marine life at a lower level than yourself and deals massive mental damage to mutant beasts. This skill, it deals 0 damage to non-mutant creatures. It's practically tailor-made for the upcoming beast tide. In my past life, our biggest nightmare was the overwhelming swarms of low-level mutant beasts. But now, one blast of Poseidon's Roar can clear the entire field instantly. More importantly, I've discovered that my Devour system doesn't just let me evolve. It can also convert excess evolution points into anti-radiation gene serums. This serum can boost human immunity to nuclear radiation by hundreds of times. People will never have to suffer through genetic mutations from radiation again. At the root, it stops the mutation of humanity. I took all the gene serums I converted and handed them over to General Zhao Yingchen. The country immediately launched a nationwide vaccination plan. In just half a month, 1,400,000,000 people across the nation had all completed their vaccinations. The tragedy of 99% of humanity perishing in my past life has been completely strangled at the source. But just as we were pouring everything into our war preparations, the unexpected happened. Dr. Rosen and the Abyss Hunter group hadn't given up. When they found out I'd sided with the state and had the full support of China, they went completely insane. They gathered every illegal armed force on the planet. Dozens of top-tier warships, along with the ultimate mutant they had spent decades secretly breeding. A mutant mosasaurus over 80 meters long was charging toward the East China Sea, coming at us with everything they had. They want to destroy me, destroy the gene serum, and destroy humanity's last hope. They want to turn the entire world into their own personal laboratory. A red alert has been sounded across the entire East Sea defense line. General Zhao Yingchen stood in the command center, watching the satellite feed. His gaze was incredibly determined. He picked up the communicator and issued the order to the entire defense force. All units, enter level 1 battle readiness. Defend the East Sea line with your lives. Do not let the enemy advance a single step. As for me, I led Xiao Hong, Hei Bei, and a pod of orcas that had grown to over 100, slowly swimming to the very front of the defense line. My 35-meter-long body lay across the surface of the sea like a mountain range. Behind me are 1,400,000,000 compatriots, the home and country I will protect with my very life. In my past life, I died in battle right here. In this life, I'm staying right here. And I'm going to make sure not a single one of my enemies makes it back alive. Dr. Rosen's fleet arrived just outside the East China Sea. He stood in the flagship's command room, staring at me on the screen. He let out a burst of crazed laughter. Megalodon, I'm giving you one last chance. Surrender, follow me, or else I'll make sure this entire East Sea becomes a literal sea of blood. I ignored his arrogant barking. I simply opened my massive jaws slowly and let out a deafening Poseidon's roar. The invisible sound waves swept through the area, and every experimental mutant in the enemy fleet instantly shrieked in agony and dropped dead one by one. The seawater was stained red in a heartbeat, and Dr. Rosen's face turned deathly pale. He never imagined I would possess such terrifying, overwhelming power. He screamed hysterically, "Open fire! Fire everything, kill that thing, and release the ultimate Mosasaurus." I wanted torn into 1,000 pieces. Countless shells and torpedoes came screaming toward me in a total frenzy. East Sea defense line behind me instantly activated its entire anti-air and anti-missile system. Interceptor missiles rose like a storm of rain, taking out every shell and torpedo, neutralizing them all in midair and beneath the waves. A bone-shaking roar echoed as that 80-meter-long ultimate mutant Mosasaurus surged out from the deep sea. Its body was encased in thick alloy armor. The teeth in its maw were as sharp as missiles, and its eyes were a deep, crimson red. It locked its gaze onto me and charged forward like a total madman. This was Dr. Rosen's ultimate weapon. In my past life, it was this very creature that crushed my body in a single bite. But now, I faced that charging mutant Mosasaurus head-on. My short-range boost triggered instantly as I slammed into it with everything I had. Boom! The two massive behemoths collided with a violent, world-shaking crash. Monstrous waves erupted across the surface. The Mosasaurus was stronger than I expected. It sank its teeth deep into my shoulder, its razor-sharp fangs piercing my skin. Blood instantly clouded the water, but I wasn't afraid at all. My high-level defense kicked in, its teeth couldn't even reach my bone. I whipped around violently and clamped my jaws onto its neck. I unleashed my devour skill at full power, hungrily draining its strength. The Mosasaurus let out a pained roar and lashed its massive tail against me. It threw me off with sheer force, having fallen completely into a mindless rage. It lunged at me once more, and everywhere it passed, the seawater literally boiled from the heat of its power. I watched it charge, without a single trace of fear in my eyes. I couldn't beat it in my past life. But in this life, I have 1.4 billion compatriots standing behind me. I have the experience of countless rebirths, and I have things I must protect. With a thought, my Master of Disguise skill triggered instantly. I transformed into a mutant Mosasaurus identical to it and charged head first. It froze in its tracks, completely unable to distinguish which one was the real self. In that moment of hesitation, I shifted back into my giant Megalodon form. My short-range boost and Poseidon's roar hit at the same time, the sound waves shattering its spirit. It stood paralyzed in the water. I opened my massive jaws, clamped down hard on its skull, and using every bit of my strength, I gave one final, crushing bite. Its reinforced, heavy skull was completely pulverized by my jaws. This ultimate aberrant Mosasaurus, which drove the entire East Sea defensive line to despair in my past life, couldn't even put up a final struggle in front of me. Its massive body slammed heavily onto the seabed, completely lifeless. Host has successfully devoured the ultimate aberrant Mosasaurus, gaining 1,000 evolution points. Detected that the host has unlocked its ultimate form. System functions are undergoing a full upgrade. Oceanic Alliance module opened. You can now command all non-mutated marine creatures in coordinated battle. Gene purification function opened. You can now purge the mutagenic factors of nuclear radiation from living organisms. The system prompts resounded in my mind one after another, and the thrill of my surging power swept over my entire body like a tsunami. I shook the bloodstains from my head, my 50-meter-long body swaying gently in the seawater. The entire surface of the sea surged with giant waves several meters high. In my past life, I was torn to shreds by this very Mosasaurus at the East Sea defensive line, without even a complete corpse left behind. In this life, in front of 1.4 billion of my compatriots, I tore it to pieces. In the command room of the flagship, Dr. Rosen, watching the screen showing me crushing the Mosasaurus's skull in one bite, looked as if his very soul had been ripped out. He collapsed into his chair, his eyes wide and round, muttering non-stop, "Impossible. This is absolutely impossible." He couldn't for the life of him figure out how his ultimate Mosasaurus, which he had spent decades of painstaking effort on, feeding it countless nuclear-radiated test subjects and fusing it with the genes of dozens of apex predators, couldn't even last 10 rounds against me before being utterly annihilated, without a single bone remaining. But he had no time to break down. Black Back, leading a battle formation of over 100 killer whales, had already slammed violently into the flagship's hull. Each killer whale was like an elite warrior, precisely attacking the ship's engine room and propellers. Little Red had also shed her usual softness. Having awakened her Reaper Leviathan bloodline, her body had already grown to 20 meters long. Her thick tentacles lashed violently against the ship's steel plates, and the heavy armor was torn apart like paper. Seawater poured madly into the cabins. Abandoned ship immediately. Dr. Rosen shrieked hysterically. Under the protection of his bodyguards, he scrambled and stumbled towards the lifeboats. He knew very well that the fleet was gone. The Mosasaurus was gone. He had no cards left to play. The only thing he could do now was run. Run as far away as possible. But he had forgotten. This ocean is my domain. Just as the lifeboat he was on had left the flagship and hadn't even gone 100 meters. My colossal shadow had already appeared beneath it. With a gentle flick of my tail fin, the lifeboat was thrown into the air by the resulting wave, only to slam heavily back down onto the sea. Dr. Rosen and his few bodyguards were flung from the lifeboat like drowned rats, falling into the cold seawater. When he looked up and saw my sky-blotting body blocking out the sun, a pair of cold, vertical pupils staring death at him, this madman who had spent his entire life conducting cruel experiments on marine life, finally understood what true, absolute terror felt like. He thrashed his limbs frantically, trying to swim away, screaming non-stop. "Don't kill me, I know I was wrong. I'll give you all my research data. I can help you fight the beast tide." I watched his pathetic display, feeling not a single ripple of emotion in my heart. In my past life, it was his research that turned countless marine creatures into bloodthirsty beasts, causing 99% of humanity to die horribly in the apocalypse. In my past life, it was he who leaked the defensive layout of the East Sea Line, allowed the beast tide to tear through our defenses. Countless comrades died with their eyes wide open. Is this blood debt something that can be erased with a simple, "I was wrong"? I opened my giant maw and unleashed a max-level sonic roar at him. The invisible soundwave slammed into his mind like a sledgehammer. He instantly let out a piercing scream. Blood poured from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, as his entire body went rigid in the water. He couldn't even move. Then, with a gentle flick of my tail fin, a current swept him toward the research vessel. General Zhao Yingchen was already waiting there with his soldiers. Several special ops divers quickly jumped into the sea, hauled the unconscious Dr. Rosen onto the ship, and slapped on the handcuffs. This madman, who threw the world into chaos and single-handedly orchestrated the apocalypse, was finally captured. He will now face the judgment of all humankind. It is the retribution he deserves. Ding! Host has successfully captured the mastermind, Dr. Rosen, and completely destroyed the global illegal armed forces of the Abyss Hunters. Gained 500 evolution points. Ding! Congratulations, host, on completing the ultimate achievement, Ocean Purifier. You have gained maximum reputation with all non-mutated sea life. Permissions for the Ocean Alliance module are now maxed out. The entire surface of the East China Sea erupted with deafening cheers. Aboard the research vessel, General Zhao Yingchen, along with all the soldiers and scientific personnel, saluted me once again with the most formal military salute. "Sea God, we've won the first battle. The shark god is incredible. The entire nation will feed you. Whatever you want to eat, we'll get it for you." In the live stream, the number of viewers had already surpassed 1 billion. Viewers from all over the world were watching this epic battle. The screen was flooded with a tidal wave of comments. "Holy crap, is that the true power of a prehistoric giant shark? It took down an 80-meter mosasaur in one bite. So awesome. Shark God not only saved us but also caught the mastermind." I didn't believe in sea gods before, but I do now. This is the god of the ocean. I looked at the cheering crowds on the coastline. Seeing those lively faces, so full of hope, a warmth spread through my heart. In my past life, this place was a battlefield littered with corpses. A hell of despair, but in this life, this place is filled with laughter and the warmth of humanity. This is the meaning of my reincarnation. But just as everyone was basking in the joy of victory, the system's red alert suddenly blared frantically in my mind. Piercing sound made every scale on my body tighten instantly. Ding! Highest level warning. Abnormal rise in global ocean nuclear radiation levels detected. Levels have surpassed the critical threshold by 1,000 times. Ding! Highest level warning. Detected throughout the world's deep seas. A massive scale hatching of mutated beasts. Their numbers exceed 1 million. Their levels are generally above 10. Ding! Highest level warning. Time remaining, 24 hours. Ding! Unknown top-tier psychic energy fluctuation detected, originating from the deepest part of the Mariana Trench. Its level is far beyond current comprehension. Threat level, extinction. My heart sank. Something is wrong. Even with all the nuclear wastewater that's been discharged, it's impossible for this to happen in just a few hours. To raise global radiation to this level, and to hatch millions of beasts simultaneously, it shouldn't be possible. Dr. Lawson has been captured, and the Abyss Hunter forces have been completely uprooted. Who on earth is pulling the strings? I immediately used Morse code. Relay all the system warnings to General Zhao Yingchen. The smile on his face vanished instantly. His expression became incredibly grave as he immediately grabbed the communicator. He issued the highest level red alert to the entire national defense line. All units, attention, the beast tide has accelerated. They will hit the global coastal defense lines in 24 hours. Enter maximum combat readiness immediately. I repeat, enter maximum combat readiness immediately. The entire country sprang into action in an instant. The gates of the coastal defense lines all slammed shut. Anti-air and missile defense systems were powered up. Inland shelters were fully opened. The whole nation entered a state of war. In my past life, we faced the beast tide in a panicked, unprepared mess. But in this life, we have been ready for a long time. We are standing our ground, but in my heart, I know. This whole thing is definitely not going to be that simple. That unknown psychic wave coming from the Mariana Trench, the feeling it gives me, is 100 times more terrifying than 2 Reaper Leviathans combined. It even made my Poseidon body, which has already unlocked its ultimate form, feel a bone-chilling cold. Down there is definitely a massive conspiracy. A twist that none of us have noticed yet. That night, I handed over command of the East Sea Defense Line to Blackback and Little Red. I had them lead the Orca pods and the Marine Alliance to guard the East Sea estuary. If any beasts appear, kill them all on sight without mercy. As for me, I activated my max-level deep sea stealth. I swam at extreme speed toward the Mariana Trench. I have to go see what kind of hellish thing is hiding behind all this. In my past life, after the beast tide fully erupted, the Mariana Trench became a nest for all the top-tier beasts. We tried to clear it countless times, but we paid a heavy price every time and still never knew what was actually inside. In this life, I'm going to uncover the mystery ahead of time. I'll smother this world-ending crisis in its cradle. With the boost from my max-level deep-sea stealth, my speed reached the absolute limit. I even left a white trail on the ocean surface as I crossed the Pacific. It took me less than half a day to arrive above the Mariana Trench. This place is known as the deepest part of the Earth. Its deepest point is over 11,000 meters. The water pressure is enough to crush a tank into a pancake. Sunlight never reaches this place. It is a realm of eternal darkness and deathly silence. But now, in this trench that should be silent, there is a nauseating stench of nuclear radiation, and the roars of countless beasts are echoing from the very bottom, making the entire ocean vibrate slightly. I slowly dived down, triggering my max-level Master of Disguise effect. I mimicked the form of a seabed reef and suppressed all my energy. I crept toward the depths of the trench inch by inch. The further I descended, the more shocked I became. On the rock walls of the trench were dense clusters of beast eggs, each the size of a bucket. Fully formed mutant beasts were curled up inside, wriggling slightly with the current. They could hatch at any moment, and the number of these eggs far exceeds the million detected by the system, possibly even surpassing 10 million. And surrounding these monstrous beast eggs were countless thick metal pipes. The ends of the pipes connected to secret laboratories hidden within the rock walls. From the pipes, a steady stream of black, concentrated nuclear wastewater was being discharged into the trench. There was also a liquid emitting a strange purple glow. It was this very liquid that had increased the power of the nuclear radiation by 1,000-fold, accelerating the incubation of these monstrous beast eggs. A storm raged in my heart. So it turns out, the Sakura Nation's discharge of nuclear wastewater was never just about simply treating nuclear waste. It was a cover. The real nuclear wastewater was all secretly discharged into the Mariana Trench to incubate these mutated monstrous beasts. And Dr. Rosen was never the mastermind at all. He was just a pawn pushed to the front. The true mastermind was someone else. Just then, the sound of a familiar conversation drifted out from the nearest laboratory. I pressed myself against the rock wall and slowly approached. Through the laboratory's observation window, I got a clear look at the people inside. The one in the lead was surprisingly Dr. Rosen, who should have been captured by us at the East Sea defensive line. No, wait, this Dr. Rosen, slightly different from the one I captured. The madness in his eyes was gone, replaced only by a cold, inhuman indifference. And his body was undergoing a bizarre mutation. Beneath his skin, blue veins writhed ceaselessly like tentacles, and standing beside him were all the top executives of the Abyss Hunter Group, the very people we thought had been captured when their fleet sank. They were all here, every single one like a walking corpse. Their eyes were vacant, and their bodies were all mutating to varying degrees. It doesn't matter that my original body was captured. Our plan has already succeeded. As Dr. Rosen began to speak, his voice hoarse and eerie, completely unlike anything a human could produce. The energy of the sea god's core has been contaminated by us with radiation. The suppressive power of Atlantis has vanished. In another 24 hours, 10 million monstrous beast eggs will hatch simultaneously. The entire blue star will be in the palm of our hands. Sir, will that Megalodon come and cause trouble? One of the executives asked cautiously. The Megalodon? Dr. Rosen let out a strange laugh. Just a lucky ant that got reborn. In his past life, he died in the jaws of a mosasaur before he even got to see us. In this life, even if he unlocks his ultimate form, before the great sea god, he is nothing more than a snack that can be eaten in a single bite. Sea god? My heart skipped a beat. Who is this sea god he's talking about? Just then, the large screen in the laboratory suddenly lit up. On the screen, a massive dark shadow appeared, floating in the deepest part of the trench. The shadow's body was over 300 meters long, its entire body covered in dark golden scales, and countless tentacles extended out like mountain ranges. A pair of enormous, golden, vertical pupils were staring intently in the direction of the camera. What made my skin crawl the most was the silhouette of that shadow. It looked exactly like the statue of Poseidon, the sea god, back in the ancient city of Atlantis. It was a perfect match. Congratulations, Lord Sea God. You are about to break the seal and return to this world. Everyone in that lab, including Dr. Lawson, all fell to their knees toward the shadow on the screen. Their faces were twisted with fanatical devotion. All the blood in my body instantly ran cold. Talk about a twist, a massive, soul-crushing twist. We always thought that the beast tide was just a freak accident caused by nuclear wastewater. But I never imagined that from the very beginning, this has been a conspiracy millions of years in the making. The legends of Atlantis, they're actually true. Millions of years ago, there really was a sea god. He ruled over the entire ocean, but he wasn't some kind of protector. He was a tyrant who wanted to dominate the entire planet. Ancient humans paid a horrific price to use the power of the sea god's core to seal him away in the deepest part of the Mariana Trench, building Atlantis on top. To keep that seal suppressed. But nuclear radiation is the only thing that can poison the core and dissolve the seal. For millions of years, he's been waiting for an opening. Until humans started dumping nuclear waste, he finally got his chance. He used his psychic power to enslave Dr. Lawson and the Abyss Hunter group, forcing them to dump waste like mad to speed up the seal's decay. At the same time, he's been breeding mutant beasts for his return, building an army of monsters. In my past life, we didn't know until the moment we died that behind the beast tide, there was such a world-ending terror lurking in the shadows. All those monsters we fought so hard against were nothing more than pawns he casually tossed out. That's why 99% of humanity was wiped out in just 1 month in my previous life. Because what we were facing wasn't an accidental disaster. It was a meticulously planned extinction. Just as I was paralyzed with shock, that massive shadow on the screen suddenly moved. Those golden, slit-like pupils instantly locked onto where I was hiding. A cold, piercing voice cut right through the laboratory walls and echoed inside my mind. A little reincarnated shark actually dares to creep up to my front door? Well, since you're here, don't even dream of leaving. Boom, a terrifying wave of psychic energy slammed into me like a massive tsunami. My master of disguise skill was instantly shredded, and the force sent me crashing into the rock wall. The rock shattered on impact, and I coughed up a mouthful of blood. The people in the lab reacted immediately. Dr. Lawson's head snapped up, and when he saw me outside the wall, he let out a piercing shriek. It's that Megalodon, catch it, kill it. In an instant, countless alarms started blaring through the trench. Mutated beasts hidden in the crevices began swarming toward me like a rising tide. Leading the pack were 5 Reaper Leviathans over 50 meters long, and more than 10 aberrant mosasaurs over 40 meters long. Every single one of them is at level 25 or higher. Ding, warning, host is surrounded by a million-level swarm of mutated beasts. The enemy's peak combat level is 30 or higher. Please evacuate immediately. Ding, warning, host is under attack by an unknown high-level psychic force. The sea god's body is damaged. Self-healing capability has dropped by 50%. I know full well that if I try to fight them head-on now, it's a one-way ticket to death. This sealed sea god, even if he hasn't broken the seal yet, his power is far beyond anything I ever imagined. Toss in this million-strong swarm of beasts, and I don't stand a ghost of a chance. As long as I stay alive, there's always hope for a comeback. I have to get out of here right now and head back to the East Sea. I need to find a way to stop this world-ending crisis. I suddenly triggered my max-level short-range dash. My 50-meter-long body shot forward like a cannonball toward a Reaper Leviathan heading straight for me. I threw my jaws wide and bit down with everything I had. With a sickening crunch, I crushed its skull into pieces. Scalding blood splattered all over me. Ding, host has successfully devoured a Reaper Leviathan. Gained 100 evolution points. Using that momentum, I bolted toward the surface at top speed. I unleashed the sea god's roar at full power. A deafening sonic wave swept through the water. The low-level beasts surrounding me had their brains turned to mush instantly, sinking down to the ocean floor. There are just too many of them, surging toward me like an endless tide. They're clinging to me desperately, trying to stop me from escaping. An aberrant mosasaur lunged and bit into my tail fin, its razor-sharp teeth piercing right through my skin. Agony surged through my entire body. I whipped around, clamped my jaws onto its torso, and went all out with my devour skill. In an instant, I sucked it dry, leaving nothing but an empty husk. Ding, host has successfully devoured an aberrant mosasaur. Gained 80 evolution points. Ding, the devour skill has triggered a critical hit. Evolution points doubled, self-healing capability restored. Sea god's body passive kicked in immediately. My wounds began to knit back together at a visible speed. I glared at the swarming beasts, a cold, ruthless light flashing in my eyes. You want to stop me? Then let's see if your teeth are tough enough to handle it. I rampaged through them, pushing desperately toward the surface. Any beast that stood in my path whether it was a leviathan or a mosasaur, was torn to bloody shreds in a single bite. With my max-level skills firing on all cylinders, the entire Mariana Trench has become my personal hunting ground. Ding. Host has successfully devoured an aberrant giant squid. Gained 20 evolution points. Ding. Host has successfully devoured a pod of aberrant orcas. Ding. Host level increased to 31. Body length increased to 52 meters. Ding. Host level increased to 32. Body length increased to 55 meters. Fighting my way through the carnage, I carved a path out of that million-strong swarm. When I finally breached the surface, the moment I felt the sunlight, my entire body was drenched in the blood of those beasts. Emerging like a god of war straight from the depths of hell, I didn't stop for a single second. I pushed my deep-sea stealth to its absolute limit, surging toward the East China Sea. Racing wildly through the water, I knew I had to get back immediately. I had to tell General Zhao Yingchen about this earth-shattering conspiracy. I have to find a way to stop this. Otherwise, not only will the tragedies of my past life repeat themselves, but they will be even more horrific. One day later, I finally reached the East China Sea. The moment I surfaced at the defense line, everyone was paralyzed with shock. My 55-meter-long body was covered in battle scars. Though they had already healed, the sheer brutality of the fight was still plain to see. Blackback and Little Red saw me coming, and immediately led the orca pod to swarm around me, affectionately nuzzling me with their snouts. I let out worried, low clicks. I wasted no time and found General Zhao's research vessel. Using Morse code, I relayed everything I discovered in the Mariana Trench. The sealed ancient sea god, and this apocalyptic conspiracy millions of years in the making. Word by word, I told him every single detail. When General Zhao finished listening, his face went deathly pale. The teacup in his hand slammed onto the table as his entire body began to tremble. He'd spent his whole life studying the ocean, but he never could have imagined that such a terrifying truth lay beneath it all. All the preparations we'd made meant nothing against an ancient sea god 300 meters long. General, what do we do now? Sha Yu asked from beside him, her voice shaking as she held the footage from the deep-sea probes. Massive tides of beasts were appearing in every ocean across the globe. Our coastal defense lines are already engaging the enemy. General Zhao took a long, deep breath, and his gaze sharpened with resolve once more. He looked at me and gave me a sharp, formal military salute. Sea God, China has never bowed its head to any catastrophe. In the past life, we might have lost, but in this life, we have you. Even if our enemy is a god, we will fight him to the end. His words ignited everyone's fighting spirit like a blazing wildfire. He was right. Even if I'm up against an ancient sea god, so what? In my past life, I was all alone and I still fought the beast tides to my last breath. This time, I have comrades fighting by my side, and 1,400,000,000 people standing behind me. What do I have to fear? Right then, a sudden sound echoed in my mind. Ding. Host has been detected encountering an extinction-level crisis. Ultimate hidden quest triggered. The Sea God's Legacy. Objective. Head to the ancient city of Atlantis. Acquire the true heart of the sea. Inherit the legacy of the ancient guardian of the oceans. Defeat the corrupted fallen sea god. Purify the oceans and protect planet Earth. Reward. Unlock the ultimate form of the sea god and god tier enhancement for all skills. Gain permanent authority over the oceans. Failure penalty. Total collapse of planet Earth. All life will be rendered extinct. My heart skipped a beat. So, it turns out the legends only told half the truth. Millions of years ago, there wasn't just one fallen sea god. There was also a true guardian of the ocean, the rightful master of Atlantis. He sacrificed his life to take down the fallen sea god, sealing his own power. Inside the sea god core, waiting for the true successor to appear. All to stop the fallen sea god from rising again. And I am that chosen successor. Without a single moment's hesitation, took on the mission. This is my only shot. It's the only shot the entire planet has, too. That same day, I told General Zhao Yingchen about the plan. He said right away that he'd put the whole country's strength behind me to buy me some time. Once the other nations found out the truth about the coming apocalypse, they all stepped up, promising their full cooperation. They pledged to use every bit of military power to hold back the beast tide. Just to give me enough precious time to reach Atlantis. Su Wan led the medical team. They prepared for every possible scenario, standing by for any casualties. Sha Yu led the deep-sea exploration team, mapping out the best route to Atlantis, giving me satellite navigation and sonar support the whole way. Xiao Hu led the fishing fleet, getting plenty of food and supplies ready for my ocean alliance. In my past life, these people died to protect humanity. But in this life, they're all standing right here by my side, fighting with me. I'm not in this fight alone anymore. Early the next morning, the global front lines went to war. Tens of millions of mutant beasts swarmed out from every ocean on Earth. They launched a frantic attack on the coastal defenses. The roar of cannons, the screams, the shouting, echoed across the entire planet. Humanity's armies held their ground at the front lines, refusing to back down even 1 inch. Black Back led the Orcus, and Little Red led the Deep Sea Alliance, the ones who'd awakened the Leviathan bloodline. They rushed from sector to sector, locked in a life and death struggle against the tide of beasts. As for me, the very second the war broke out, I triggered deep sea stealth and headed back toward the ancient city of Atlantis. Moving at absolute top speed, I have to get that sea god core as fast as I can. I have to claim the inheritance. Every single second I waste is another life lost to the jaws of those monsters. This time, I didn't hold anything back. With my short-range dash maxed out and active, I was moving at an incredible pace. Even left a vacuum trail behind me on the seafloor. A journey that should have taken 3 days took me less than 10 hours to reach the ancient city of Atlantis again. But the sight in front of me, it made my blood boil with rage. The once magnificent city of Atlantis was now choked by black radiation. The golden buildings were tarnished and ruined, and the city was crawling with mutated freaks. The entire city was smothered by the fallen sea god's psychic pressure, radiating a suffocating sense of despair. The sea god core, it's right in the middle of the city, in the sea god palace. But to get to it, I'll have to fight through the whole city and break through waves and waves of monsters. Without a shred of hesitation, I opened my massive maw and let out an ear-splitting sea god's roar. The mutated beasts closing in were instantly shattered into pieces. I lunged forward with a burst of speed, charging straight toward the palace at the heart of the ancient city. No matter their level, the beasts standing in my way were all torn to shreds. I pushed my devour skill to its absolute limit. With every beast I consumed, my strength grew more powerful. My level shot up. Ding! Host has successfully devoured a mutated Leviathan. Gained 120 evolution points. Ding! Host level increased to 35. Body length increased to 60 meters. Ding! God tier high defense skill unlocked. Reduces all damage by 90%. Host has successfully devoured a pack of mutated mosasaurs. Gained 500 evolution points. Ding! Host level increased to 38. Body length increased to 70 meters. Fighting my way through, I carved a bloody path out of the beast swarm and finally reached the gates of the sea god's palace. This ancient palace from tens of millions of years ago had its doors tightly shut. Countless ancient runes were carved upon them, emitting a faint golden light that resisted the radiation's taint. I gently touched the palace gates with my snout. Instantly, every single rune on the doors lit up. A warm golden light enveloped my entire body. In my mind, an ancient and gentle voice resonated. I have finally waited for you, successor. It has been tens of millions of years. Finally, someone is willing to stand up and protect this ocean. Before the voice even faded, the palace gates slowly creaked open. I flicked my tail fin and swam inside. In the very center of the palace, a fist-sized golden crystal floated, radiating a warm and majestic power, like a sun within the ocean. This is the true sea god's core. Just as I reached out my snout, about to touch the core, a terrifying blast of black energy suddenly slammed down from the ceiling. It struck me with the force of a falling mountain. I crashed hard onto the palace floor, coughing up a mouthful of blood. A massive dark shadow slowly emerged from the gloom of the palace. It was the fallen sea god. He actually broke the seal and arrived at Atlantis ahead of time. You tiny ant, how dare you covet the power of a god? He let out a deafening roar. His 300-meter-long body filled the entire palace. Countless tentacles whipped toward me. You couldn't stop me in your past life. And you won't in this one either. The tentacles lashed against my body. Even with my maxed out high defense, I was instantly torn open, leaving gashes so deep they reached the bone. Agony surged through my entire body. His power, it's just too overwhelming. Even if he hasn't fully recovered his strength yet, he's not someone I can hold my own against yet. With one swift move, he swept me up. Countless tentacles coiled tightly around my body, squeezing harder and harder, inch by inch. Could hear my bones groaning under the crushing weight, and a suffocating pressure hit me instantly. Did you really think that coming back through rebirth would change anything? You're so naive. His voice was dripping with pure contempt. Everything you've done has been nothing more than a dance within my grand design. You killed my pawns. You grew stronger, but in the end, you've only delivered yourself as the perfect sacrifice. Once I devour your ultimate prehistoric Megalodon body and absorb the sea god's core, this entire blue planet will crawl at my feet. Humans are merely livestock I keep for food. His words pierced through my heart like shards of ice. Could it be that all my hard work in this life was for nothing? Is it possible that I truly can't change the ending after all? Are the people I wanted to protect destined to die miserable deaths in this apocalypse? Just then, that ancient, gentle voice echoed in my mind once more. Successor, the meaning of protecting was never about fighting a lonely battle by yourself. Look behind you, look at everything you've stood for. You are not fighting alone. I jerked my head up, looking through the dome of the palace, and saw the world outside. At the East Sea defense line, General Zhao Yingchen and his soldiers, despite being covered in wounds, were still holding the line to the death. Out on the Pacific Ocean, Blackback and his pod of orcas were launching charge after charge against the mutant beasts. In the Arctic Ocean, A Chang and his tribesmen were piloting fishing boats, saving countless civilians from the freezing water. Even facing those monsters, they didn't flinch for a second. All across the globe, countless humans and countless sea creatures were fighting to the death to defend their homes, and there were 1,400,000,000 people across the nation, all watching their screens, cheering for me, praying for me. Go, shark god, go. We believe in you, you have to win. Looked at the fallen sea god in front of me, and every trace of fear vanished. There was only unstoppable resolve. I suddenly unleashed the full power of my sea god form, tearing through his tentacles with brute force, and I opened my massive jaws, releasing a sea god's roar with every bit of strength I had left. In that roar was the obsession of my rebirth and the weight of my vow to protect. It carried the desperate will to life from every living soul. The invisible shockwave swept out like a golden tide. The fallen sea god let out a scream of pure agony. The tentacles binding me were shattered instantly, and he stumbled back, over and over. At that very moment, the sea god's core floating in the center of the palace suddenly erupted with a blinding golden light. It had felt my heart's resolve. Sensing my resolve to protect, it instantly transformed into a ray of golden light and drilled right into my body. Boom, an indescribable, massive power swept through my entire being like a tsunami. Within that golden glow, my body began to grow rapidly, surging from 70 meters all the way to 100 meters. Golden scales covered my entire body as countless ancient sigils began to glow upon me. The power of the ancient ocean guardian and my prehistoric Megalodon bloodline fused together perfectly. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have successfully inherited the sea god core. The ultimate form of the ocean god is now unlocked. All skills have been promoted to divine rank. Ultimate divine skill unlocked, ocean purification. It can cleanse all nuclear radiation and genetic mutations across the globe. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have gained total control over the world's oceans. All the power of the sea is now yours to command. I looked at my brand new body, feeling the power surging within me, power enough to rule the entire ocean. I slowly raised my head and stared down the fallen sea god. You're wrong, my voice echoed through the water, vibrating across the entire ancient city of Atlantis. The ocean was never meant to be a tool for your tyranny. It is the cradle of life, a home we must protect with our very souls. You want to consume me? You want to rule this blue planet? And let's see if you actually have what it takes. I gave my tail fin a powerful flick. The waters of Atlantis surged and churned with my every move. Countless blades of golden water slashed fiercely toward the fallen sea god. He let out a manic roar. Countless black tentacles rose to meet them, clashing violently against my water blades. An earth-shattering battle erupted within the ancient city of Atlantis. I commanded the full force of the ocean. The sea itself became my weapon. Everywhere the golden light touched, all radioactive pollution was instantly purified. Every mutated beast was wiped out in an instant. Though the fallen sea god's power was immense, it was fueled by nothing but filth and destruction. But my power? It comes from the will to protect. It is a gift from the entire ocean itself, born from the hope of every living thing. As I grew stronger and he withered, he slowly began to lose ground. Impossible, I am the sea god. I am the master of the sea. How could someone like you ever defeat me? He screamed hysterically, unleashing every last bit of his power. His entire form turned into a black torrent, charging straight at me with lethal force, wanting to take me down with him. As I watched him rush toward me, I slowly opened my massive jaws and unleashed the ultimate divine skill, ocean purification. A blinding golden light erupted from my mouth. It lit up the deep sea like a sun. Wherever that golden radiance reached, the black corruption vanished instantly. The fallen sea god let out a blood-curdling scream. His body began to melt away bit by bit within the golden light, disintegrating piece by piece. No, I won't accept this. I've waited 10 million years for this. I won't accept this. This was what he left in this world. His last words. Then, his entire body was completely purified by the golden light, vanishing into the seawater without a single trace left behind. This world-ending plot that was millions of years in the making, this prime culprit who unleashed the apocalypse, was finally, utterly annihilated by me. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have successfully slain the fallen sea god. Ultimate hidden mission, legacy of the sea god, complete. Ding! Ultimate divine skill, ocean purification, has been triggered. Initiating global ocean purification protocol. Detecting a rapid decrease in global nuclear radiation levels. All variant beast eggs have ceased incubation. Low-level mutated variant beasts are being instantly purified. As the system prompts sounded, I transformed into a ray of golden light and shot out of the ancient city of Atlantis. Arriving at the surface of the sea, I opened my enormous mouth, and once again activated ocean purification upon the oceans of the entire planet. A boundless golden light swept over every corner of the world's oceans like a tidal wave. The seawater, which had been polluted by nuclear waste for decades, under the golden light's glow, became clear and transparent once more. The nuclear radiation in the water was instantly purified completely, with not a single trace remaining. Those mutated variant beasts within the golden light had the mutation factors in their bodies completely purged, returning to their normal forms as marine creatures. Those unhatched variant beast eggs instantly stopped developing, turning into ordinary fish eggs, returning to nature. The global variant beast tide, at this very moment, came to a complete stop. When the golden light dissipated, sunlight once again scattered across the sea's surface. The ocean, once murky and filled with blood, had returned to a clear, azure blue, visible to the bottom, and teeming with life. On the coastlines, everyone was stunned. The variant beasts that had been frantically attacking had vanished in an instant. The once deafening roar of cannon fire had stopped. The air of despair that once filled the atmosphere was replaced by a fresh sea breeze when they saw my 100-meter-long golden body slowly floating on the sea's surface. Like a true sea god, looking down upon this revitalized ocean, everyone realized what had happened. We had won, completely, instantly. A deafening cheer echoed through every corner of the globe. On the coastlines, countless people embraced each other and wept. In my direction, they waved and shouted non-stop. In the live stream, the comment section was completely flooded. Countless people shed tears of excitement in front of their screens. We won. We didn't repeat the mistakes of our past lives. We defended our home. We defended this blue ocean. General Zhao Yingchen stood at the bow of the research vessel, looking at me. Tears streamed down his old face. Facing me, he gave the most solemn of military salutes. Everyone on the ship, they all faced me and gave a crisp, solemn military salute in unison. Blackback led the Orca pods, and Little Red led the United Ocean Alliance. They slowly circled around me, affectionately nuzzling my golden scales with their snouts. They let out joyful cries. They had finally won this battle. They had protected their home. I looked at the companions by my side, looked at the cheering crowds along the coastline and at this deep blue ocean that had regained its vitality. My heart was filled with warmth. In my past life, to protect China, I died in the jaws of an exotic beast. I left that world with endless regret and resentment. But in this life, I was reborn as a baby Megalodon, and the first thing I did was turn myself into the state. Starting a nationwide feeding program by 1,400,000,000 people, I devoured and grew. I evolved every step of the way, counter-attacking and rising to the top. In the end, I reversed the apocalypse and protected the entire Earth. I did it. I protected everything I ever wanted to hold dear. The story's ending was perfect and beautiful. Captured original Dr. Lawson and his accomplices faced judgment by all of humanity. They were sentenced to life imprisonment, destined to spend the rest of their days behind bars. Countries around the world jointly issued the strictest ocean protection convention in history, completely banning all forms of nuclear wastewater discharge. Project 057 established marine ecological reserves across the 4 oceans, investing trillions of dollars. They used every bit of strength to restore the damaged marine ecosystem. They worked to protect this blue ocean that nurtured all life. The sea areas once poisoned by radiation, under the power of the ocean's purification, they finally regained their life. Coral reefs that had been gone for years grew colorful corals once more, and schools of migratory fish refilled the once empty currents. Countless marine creatures returned to their homes. The entire ocean, it became vibrant again, more magnificent than ever before. And I, as the guardian of the sea, as the sea god of China, I didn't stay in the distant ancient city of Atlantis. Instead, I returned to China's East Sea. The state designated a vast marine protected area just for me. There is no pollution here, and no fishing is allowed. It has become a paradise for marine life and the most famous marine sanctuary in the world. Countless people travel from all over the globe just to catch a glimpse of the sea god Megalodon who saved the planet. Even if they only see my tail fin from a distance, they cheer and jump with excitement. The nationwide feeding program by 1,400,000,000 people is still going strong. In fact, it's even more lively than before. Every single day, countless fishing boats carry the freshest and highest quality bait. They come to the East Sea to feed me and my marine companions. Netizens even gave this feeding activity a cute name, making offerings to Sharky. Every day, people post photos online of the ingredients prepared by fishermen, coming up with all sorts of nutritious meals for me. On social media platforms, my exclusive hashtags dominate the trending lists every day. Netizens have given me all kinds of cute nicknames, like Sharky Boss and Sea God Baby. Some people even made custom memes and edited videos of my daily life. They constantly beg for updates on my status online, caring more about my meals than their own 3 meals a day. Today Sharky devoured 20 tons of top-tier tuna. The captain said Sharky inhaled half a boat of fish in one bite. The poor kid was totally stunned. Help, I caught a video of Sharky surfing with Little Red in the Orca pod in the East Sea Reserve. He even uses his tail fin to splash water for the kids. How can such a prehistoric giant beast be this adorable? Latest news, Sharky has unlocked another achievement. He led the ocean rescue team to save a boat of fishermen who had run aground. Now the whole internet is calling him the shark god. I flicked my tail fin and swallowed a whole crate of fresh fish tossed from the feeding boat in one gulp. Deep sea mastery unlocked. The system's notifications chimed endlessly in my mind. System reward received. Deep sea mastery unlocked. It was like a cash register that wouldn't stop ringing. The sound filled my shark heart with joy. Ding. Host has successfully devoured a school of premium bluefin tuna. Gained 200 evolution points. Ding. Host level increased to 40. Body length increased to 120 meters. Body of the sea god has evolved again. Immune to all physical and energy attacks. Ding. Host's reputation has reached its peak. Unlocking ultimate passive. Ocean affinity. All non-mutated marine life will now unconditionally obey the host's commands. I shook my head in satisfaction. A slight movement of my 120-meter-long body in the water created gentle waves several meters high. On the observation deck ashore, countless tourists erupted in deafening cheers. Few small children held up drawing boards with pictures of me on them, leaning over the railing, waving their little hands and shouting my name. I wagged my tail fin, sending up a spray of crystal-clear water droplets. Under the sun, it formed a 7-colored rainbow that landed perfectly in front of the observation deck. The children's cheers grew even louder, and even the adults beside them couldn't help but take out their phones. They frantically recorded the scene. Beside me, Little Red waved his clumsy tentacles. Trying to copy me, he splashed the water, but used too much force. He ended up splashing half the sea's surface into the air, drenching the people on the shore in a cool shower. The tourists weren't angry at all. In fact, they laughed even harder. They waved continuously at Little Red. Shyly, Little Red retracted his tentacles. He hid behind me, peeking out with only his big, round eyes. Meanwhile, Black Back led the orca pod in a neat formation around the perimeter of the reserve. Like a group of dutiful security guards, they patrolled back and forth. Ever since the global mutant beast tide ended, they had become the ocean patrol of the East China Sea. Every day, they were either chasing away illegal fishing boats or rescuing trapped marine creatures. They were as busy as could be. Even the East China Sea Coast Guard sent them a banner naming them Guardians of the Ocean. It was hung in the most prominent spot on the research vessel. Life was leisurely and pleasant. Every day, I ate top-quality ingredients fed to me by the entire nation and patrolled the East China Sea with my companions. Occasionally, I'd visit other oceans around the world to purify any lingering, sporadic radiation. I'd rescue ships and sea creatures in distress. Life couldn't have been more comfortable. I once thought that the apocalyptic tragedy of my past life was truly over. That the days to come would continue to be this peaceful and beautiful. But I forgot. In this bottomless ocean, there are always hidden secrets and crises unknown to man. That night, I was patrolling the deep sea with Little Red and Black Back, checking on the recovery of the coral reefs when the system's red alert suddenly blared in my mind without any warning. The piercing sound made all the golden scales on my body instantly tense up. Ding. Highest level warning. Abnormal energy fluctuations detected in the South Pacific Ocean. Radiation levels have instantaneously exceeded the critical value by 5,000 times. Ding. Highest level warning. Ancient biological gene sequence awakening detected. Source: the deepest part of the Tonga Trench in the South Pacific. Ding. Highest level warning. Large-scale cluster of mutated organisms detected. Quantity exceeds 100,000. They are moving rapidly towards the surrounding sea areas. My heart sank. Something's not right. I'm sure I used ocean purification to completely cleanse the entire globe's oceans of nuclear radiation. I didn't even miss the deepest trenches. How could such high radiation levels suddenly appear? And the gene sequences of ancient creatures are awakening in the Tonga Trench. What in the world is hiding there? Black Back seemed to sense the strange presence in the seawater too. He let out a wary whale song, and the orca pod instantly fell into a battle formation, protecting me and Little Red in the center. Little Red also shed her usual gentle demeanor. Her thick tentacles tensed instantly, her eyes fixed on the dark depths of the sea. Ready for battle, I immediately used sonar to issue a command to Black Back and Little Red, ordering them to take the orca pod and return to the East Sea defense line at once, and to report the abnormal situation here to General Zhao Yingchen, and to activate level 1 combat readiness. As for me, I activated my max level deep sea stealth and headed towards the Tonga Trench in the South Pacific. Speeding off at full throttle, I have to see for myself. What on earth is going on with this sudden anomaly? I absolutely cannot let Blue Star, which has only just found peace, fall into an apocalyptic crisis again. Boosted by deep sea stealth, my speed was at its absolute maximum. I covered a distance of over 10,000 kilometers in less than 2 hours. When I arrived above the Tonga Trench, the sight before my eyes made me stare in horror. The once pristine waters of the South Pacific were now completely shrouded in a pollution so thick it looked black. The corpses of countless marine creatures floated on the surface. Their bodies were all horribly mutated, emitting a nauseatingly foul stench. And from the depths of the Tonga Trench, a black, polluting liquid was endlessly gushing out. Wherever it spread, all marine life mutated in an instant, turning into mindless, bloodthirsty monsters. Ding. Warning. Energy fluctuations from the remnant soul of the fallen sea god detected. Confirmed to be active. Ding. Warning. Life signals from the ancient aberrant race, the deep-sea Demonscale clan, detected. This race is an evil group that was sealed away in ancient times by the guardians of the ocean. They subsist by polluting the seas and devouring living creatures. Ding. Highest level warning. The remnant soul of the fallen sea god has entered a symbiotic relationship with the deep-sea Demonscale clan and is now breaking the ancient seal. Estimated time until the seal is completely broken, 72 hours. Ding. Warning. The Demonscale clan's contamination has been detected spreading across the world's oceans. Mutated creatures have already begun attacking coastal defense lines. The system's alerts blared one after another. A storm raged in my heart. A plot twist. A massive plot twist. I thought I had completely destroyed the fallen sea god. I never expected him to have an ace up his sleeve. Long before I purified him, he had split off a fragment of his soul and sent it to escape to the Tonga Trench. He even unsealed the deep-sea Demonscale clan, who were sealed away in ancient times. In the apocalypse of my past life, there was never any mention of a deep-sea Demonscale clan. I realized in an instant, the tide of aberrant beasts in my past life was just a prelude to the Demonscale clan's invasion. The reason 99% of humanity was wiped out within a month in my past life wasn't simply because of the aberrant beast tide. It was because of a full-scale invasion by the Demonscale clan. And the fallen sea god was nothing more than a pawn they pushed to the front lines. In that moment of shock, a cold, malicious psychic energy suddenly shot out from the depths of the trench and coiled around my body. Then, a voice, both familiar and strange, echoed in my mind. It's the voice of the fallen sea god I destroyed. Long time no see, my dear successor. Didn't expect this, did you? I'm still alive. His voice was filled with crazed laughter. You thought that by purifying the ocean and destroying my main body, it would all be over? So naive. You have no idea what kind of existence you're up against. In ancient times, the Ocean Guardians exhausted their entire clan's strength just to seal our demonic scale clan in the depths of the trenches. For tens of millions of years, we have finally waited for this day to see the light again. The nuclear wastewater was our key. The fallen sea god was our pawn. Even your rebirth was part of our calculations. Why do you think you were reborn? Why did you awaken the devour and evolve system? That was the last lingering wool of the Ocean Guardians, struggling. It wanted to choose a successor to stop us. But what a pity, the one it chose, you, turned out to be far too weak. My pupils contracted sharply. Another twist. My rebirth, my system, none of it was an accident. It was the last lingering wool of the ancient Ocean Guardians that chose me, bringing me back to life to stop the invasion of the demonic scale clan. And everything I'd experienced before was just a grand scheme by the demonic scale clan to completely dismantle the Ocean Guardians' legacy. A huge trap they laid. You thought you inherited the sea god's core? That was just bait our demonic scale clan deliberately left for you. The fallen sea god's remnant soul let out a piercing, maniacal laugh. When you used it to purify the ocean, you were already unknowingly dismantling the seal nodes around the world. Now, all the seals across the globe have loosened. The great army of our demonic scale clan will soon surge forth from every trench. The entire blue star will be ours for the taking. And you, this perfect body, a fusion of the sea god's core and the prehistoric Megalodon bloodline, will become the new vessel for our demonic scale lord. Before his voice had faded, deep within the Tonga Trench, an incredibly terrifying energy fluctuation suddenly erupted. Countless black figures surged out from the depths of the trench. Their bodies were covered in jet black scales. They had the upper body of a human and the lower body of a fish, holding spears forged from deep-sea cold iron. Pairs upon pairs of crimson eyes stared intently at me, glowing with a bloodthirsty light. At the lead was a demonic scale warrior over 100 meters long. In its hand, it held a massive bone blade. The aura it emanated was in no way weaker than the fallen sea god's original body. It looked at me and let out a hoarse roar. In an instant, it led the great army of the demonic scale clan, charging towards me. Ding. Warning. The host is surrounded by an army of 100,000 from the demonic scale clan. The enemy's highest combat power is level 45, far exceeding the host's current level. Please evacuate immediately. Ding. Warning. Seals in all major oceanic trenches detected to be loosening simultaneously. The demonic scale clan's army has fully awakened. It is estimated that all global sea territories will fall within 24 hours. I knew very well in my heart, if I fight them head-on now, it would absolutely be a dead end. The strength of the demonic scale clan far exceeded my imagination, and the remnant soul of the fallen sea god is lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike. Once I'm entangled by it, I'll have absolutely no chance of escaping. As long as I'm alive, there's still hope. I have to get back to the East China Sea at once. find a way to counter them, and uncover the truth of the Guardian of the Sea's legacy. I can't let Blue Star fall into the hands of the demon scale tribe. I flung open my giant maw, and let out a deafening sea god's roar. My god-level sonic skill erupted with its full power. The demon scale tribe warriors at the front were instantly blown to pieces, their bodies shattering. Black blood stained the entire sea red. Immediately after, I activated my max-level short-range acceleration. My 120-meter-long body, like a golden bolt of lightning, instantly broke through the demon scale tribe's encirclement and raced frantically towards China's East Sea. Behind me, the great demon scale army pursued me wildly, as countless black energy attacks came crashing down on me. I activated my god-level high-intensity defense, and a golden shield enveloped my entire body. I withstood the full force of all the attacks, my speed not slowing in the slightest. Ding! The host has been hit by the demon scale tribe's dark energy attack. The sea god's body is corroding. Self-healing ability has decreased by 30%. Ding! Warning! Global coastal defense lines have been attacked by the demon scale tribe's mutated creatures. Multiple defense lines are in critical danger. Warning! Demon scale tribe contamination fluctuations have been detected in the East China Sea. The defense line has activated the highest level of red alert. My heart sank. I was one step too late. The demon scale tribe's invasion was faster than I ever imagined. I have to get back there as soon as possible. Otherwise, the tragedy from my past life will happen all over again, but in a much more devastating way. Racing all the way, it only took me 1 hour to get back to the East China Sea, but the sight before my eyes made my heart clench. The East China Sea, which was once a clear, azure blue, was now streaked with black contamination. Countless mutated sea creatures were frantically assailing the coastal defense line. The sounds of cannon fire, roars, and alarms echoed across the sky. General Zhao Yingchen stood on the command ship, directing the battle with a solemn expression. The soldiers held the line, refusing to retreat a single step. Hebei led the Orca pod, and Xiao Hong led the allied ocean forces. They were at the very forefront of the defense line, locked in a frenzied battle with the mutated creatures. Hebei already had several wounds so deep you could see the bone, and his blood stained the water around him red. But he continued to lead his Orca pod, charging the mutated creatures time and time again. Desperately holding back the tide of the attack, Xiao Hong wasn't doing much better. Several of her tentacles had been bitten off by the mutated creatures. Although they grew back thanks to her Leviathan regeneration ability, her energy was greatly diminished. Still, she remained at the very front, buying the human soldiers behind her time to attack. When they saw me return, Hebei let out an excited but exhausted cry, while Xiao Hong gave a desperate, sorrowful call in my direction. I looked at my companions, covered in wounds, and at the soldiers fighting tooth and nail on the front line. A monstrous wave of fury erupted from the depths of my soul. How dare you touch my people? How dare you invade my home? I threw open my giant maw, and my god-level sonic skill exploded with its full power. The mutated creatures charging the defense line were instantly blasted, their brains turning to pulp. And they all sank to the ocean floor. Then, I activated my ocean affinity passive, calling out to all the marine life in the entire East China Sea. I gave them the order to attack. Instantly, countless schools of fish, sharks, and pods of whales surged forward from every direction. They joined the battle, forming a massive, united ocean army. We launched a counterattack against the mutated creatures. Ding! Host has successfully commanded all marine life in the East China Sea. The United Ocean Army has exceeded 1 million in number. Ding! Host has successfully repelled the mutated creatures' attack in the East China Sea. Gained 1,000 evolution points. Ding! Host level increased to level 42. Body length has grown to 130 meters. The corrosion effect on the sea god's body has been cleared. The crisis at the front line was instantly resolved. When the soldiers saw me return, they erupted in deafening cheers. I slowly swam to the front of the command ship, and, using Morse code, relayed my discoveries in the Tonga Trench. The truth about the demon scale tribe, and the conspiracy of the fallen sea god's remnant soul. I told General Zhao Yingchen every single word. After hearing my report, General Zhao Yingquan's face went deathly pale. The command baton in his hand fell heavily onto the deck. He had studied the ocean his entire life, but he never knew that such a terrifying ancient race was hidden in the deep sea. He knew even less that all of our previous victories were nothing more than a meticulously designed trap set by the enemy. Sea God, what do we do now? There was a hint of urgency in General Zhao Yingquan's voice, but not a shred of panic. The defense lines of every country in the world are in jeopardy. The demon scale tribe's corruption is spreading at an extremely rapid rate. In 3 days at most, the entire ocean will be completely corrupted. Just then, Xia Yu and her deep-sea exploration team came running over, holding a tablet in her hand. Her expression was incredibly grim. General, Sea God, we've just deciphered the ancient inscriptions transmitted from the ancient city of Atlantis. We've discovered the full truth about the ocean guardians and the demon scale tribe. In ancient times, the Ocean Guardian clan sealed all of their power into the sea god's core to fight against the demon scale tribe. Only an heir with the true heart of a guardian can unlock the full power within the core. The power you unlocked before was merely 1/10 of the sea god's core's true power. To unlock the ultimate power of the sea god's core, you must collect the 5 guardian fragments scattered across the depths of the world's 5 great oceans. These 5 fragments are sealed in the Mariana Trench, the Tonga Trench, the Puerto Rico Trench, Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, and the Peru-Chile Trench, all at their deepest points. Only by collecting all the fragments can you fully awaken the sea god's core, destroy the demon scale tribe, and reseal the trench nodes around the globe. My heart suddenly skipped a beat. So that's why, no wonder I felt that the power of the sea god's core wasn't being used to its full potential. It turns out I had only unlocked 1/10 of its power. To completely destroy the demon scale tribe, I must collect the 5 guardian fragments and awaken the ultimate power of the sea god's core. But these 5 fragments are hidden in the deepest trenches of the world's 5 great oceans. And right now, those trenches have all become lairs for the demon scale tribe. To collect the fragments, I'll have to break through layer after layer of the demon scale tribe's defenses and venture deep into their lairs. It would be like pulling teeth from a tiger's mouth. A near certain death mission. Just as I was contemplating a plan, model, the system's notification sound suddenly rang in my mind. Ding, detected. The ultimate main quest, Legacy of the Guardian, has been triggered. Mission objective: collect the 5 guardian fragments from the depths of the world's 5 oceans and awaken the ultimate power of the sea god's core. Completely annihilate the Demonscale clan and reseal the global ocean trench nodes. Protect the peace of Blue Star. Mission reward: unlock the ultimate god level form of the Ocean Guardian. All skills will break through the god level limit. Gain permanent control over the oceans of Blue Star. The system will permanently bind to the host, unlocking infinite evolutionary potential. Penalty for mission failure: a full-scale invasion by the Demonscale clan. Blue Star will be completely lost. All life will be extinguished. I looked at the mission on the system panel. In that instant, my eyes became incredibly determined. In my previous life, I was willing to sacrifice my own life to protect Washa. In this life, to protect the entire Blue Star. To protect the 1.4 billion compatriots behind me. To protect all life. I wouldn't hesitate even if it meant certain death, even if I had to walk through a mountain of knives and a sea of fire. I would dare to face it. I immediately used Morse code to tell General Zhao Yingchen my plan. I needed to divide our forces into 5 groups. A global joint operation. Humanity's armies would be responsible for holding the global coastal defense lines, fending off the Demonscale clan's attack. As for me, I would lead my ocean coalition to the trenches of the 5 great oceans to collect the guardian fragments. General Zhao Yingchen didn't hesitate for a moment. He immediately nodded in agreement. He contacted the leaders of every country in the world at once, informing them of the truth about the Demonscale clan and my plan. Within a single hour, all the nations of the world reached a consensus and formed a global joint defense line. They would use the full strength of humanity to buy me time, holding the coastal defenses and providing cover for me to collect the guardian fragments. Su Wan led the world's top medical teams, forming dozens of field medic squads. They rushed to every front line across the globe, ready to treat injured soldiers and marine life at a moment's notice. Sha Yu led the deep-sea exploration team, providing me with 24-hour satellite navigation and trench topography scans, precisely locating the position of each guardian fragment. Xiao Hu led the nation's fleet of fishing boats, forming a maritime supply team for the global defense lines and my ocean coalition, providing a continuous stream of supplies. Jeremy Wade traveled to every sea in the world, using his influence to call upon global marine conservation organizations to join the battle to protect this azure ocean together. A Cheng led the indigenous tribes of the Arctic, forming the Arctic Defense Line, desperately holding the entrance to the Arctic Ocean. They blocked the Demonscale army pouring out of the Arctic Trench, those who had sacrificed themselves to protect humanity in my past life. In this life, they stood shoulder to shoulder with me once again. Early the next morning, the global joint operation officially began. Global coastal defense lines opened fire simultaneously. Countless shells rained down fiercely on the mutated creatures in the ocean. Humanity's armies held the front lines to the death, engaging in a desperate struggle with the Demonscale clan's vanguard. And I, with my forces split 5 ways, began the journey to collect the guardian fragments. Blackback led the main force of the Orca pod, heading to the Gackle Ridge in the Arctic Ocean to find the first guardian fragment. Xiao Hong led the deep-sea coalition of the Leviathan bloodline to the Puerto Rico Trench in the Atlantic Ocean. To search for the second guardian fragment, I contacted the Emperor Penguin colonies and blue whale pods of Antarctica. They formed the Antarctic Coalition and headed for the Peru-Chile Trench in the South Pacific. To find the third guardian fragment, Jeremy Wade is leading the world's top deep-sea exploration team. They'll coordinate with my Ocean Alliance and head to the Mariana Trench. Their mission is the fourth guardian fragment, while I I am heading personally to the South Pacific's Tonga Trench, the stronghold of the Devilscale clan, to find the last piece. It is the core Guardian fragment. This journey, it's destined to be full of danger and bloodshed, but not a single one of us is backing down. To protect this ocean, to save our home, we have no other choice. By the time I reached the Tonga Trench again, the place had been completely transformed into a Devilscale nest, with countless warriors patrolling the perimeter. Black pollution kept surging up from the depths of the trench, filling the entire sea with a suffocating malice. I activated my max-level camouflage master skill, disguising my body as a massive undersea reef. I suppressed all my energy and began diving toward the depths of the trench in total silence. Deep-sea stealth fully active, even the elite Devilscale warriors couldn't catch a single trace of me, but the deeper I went, the more Devilscales I encountered, and the worse the pollution became. Even with my sea god's physique, I felt a bone-chilling cold. On the system panel, the radiation levels were skyrocketing, 120.3. It has already surpassed the critical limit by over 10,000 times. Ding, 2507. Guardian fragment signal detected, 260.5. Location, the deepest part of the Tonga Trench, the sealing grounds of the Devilscale Sovereign. Ding, warning, life signal of the Devilscale Sovereign detected. Level far exceeds current cognition. Threat level, world ending. Target is currently in a sealed, dormant state. Awakening imminent. My heart sank. So that's how it is. The core Guardian fragment is actually right inside the Sovereign's sealing grounds. And the reason the fallen sea god's soul is hiding here is to wake the Devilscale Sovereign. Once that monster wakes up, the entire world is truly finished. I didn't hesitate for a second and continued diving toward the absolute bottom of the trench. Even if I'm walking into a death trap, I have to break through. I have to get that fragment. It's our only shot. 2 hours later, I finally reached the deepest part of the Tonga Trench. This is one of the deepest points on Earth. The water pressure is enough to crush the strongest alloys. Yet, right here, a massive black palace had been constructed. Countless ancient sealing runes were carved all around the palace walls. This was the prison of the Devilscale Sovereign. In the very center of the palace, a golden, diamond-shaped fragment hovered, radiating a warm and massive power. That was the core Guardian fragment I was looking for, and right beneath it, an endless cloud of black mist was sealed, hiding a figure of absolute, soul-crushing terror. That was the sleeping Devilscale Sovereign. Meanwhile, the fallen sea god's soul was drifting right next to the fragment, relentlessly attacking the protective shield with dark energy.